Joseph Stanislaw, aka Jersey Joe, accompanied me on today's episode as we looked at some possible options that the Devils could turn to this offseason to try to strengthen their roster. We also looked at some players currently on the Devils roster that might be on the hot seat. There's so much to break down in today's episode alongside Jersey Joe. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Elliott scores! Oh, Stevens stepped up, nailed it. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here at the Locked On Network. I'm your host, college hockey play announcer, Devils writer Pucks Pitchforks, and also part-time credential media member Trey Matthews. Joined alongside my colleague over at Pucks and Pitchforks, Joseph Stanislaw, aka Jersey Joe. We're here to talk all things free agency because the Devils are in need of some scoring, and Joe has a few selections.
Yeah, well, first off, long story short, Devils want to not only make the playoffs under Sheldon Keefe once again, they want to get through a little bit deeper, add more depth, add more scoring touch, add a little edge. What else can we add?
Well, I think a lot of people are like pushing for physicality as a metric, but before we get into it, Joe, first and foremost, how you doing?
I am doing good. It is pre-summer here in Asbury Park, Ocean Grove area. Behind me is right over there, the old beer garden next to the new place. But anyways, I'm talking about establishments being successful. A little side note. I think the Devils are working on something special in their own right.
Well, I think the main priority is to re-sign Luke Hughes to an extension. No other team can give him an offer sheet, so the Devils still have some power in that regards. But the main question is, the Devils have about $12 million in cap space. How do they approach this? Can you tell the folks what we were talking about, which is maybe a deferred payment?
So deferred payment, basically, let's say you have a player earning, let's say, potential, 8 years, $54 million, right? Well, you can have that player say, well, I'll take $8 million originally. They could defer $500,000. They could do $75,000, and every year for the next couple of years or seasons, they can get paid out X rate, and they usually earn an interest rate. Puckpedia actually has a calculator for this. The Carolina Hurricanes have two players, Jacob Slavin, and remind me the other one.
Okay, so the list of notable players with deferred contracts are Frank Vetrano, Seth Jarvis, Jacob Slavin, and Jake McCabe. Those are the list of players you sent me.
Yep, Seth Jarvis is the second Carolina Hurricane who uses that deferred payment to take a team discount and eventually get paid a little extra in interest over the next couple of seasons with Carolina. But that being said, Tom Fitzgerald should basically, if Luke Hughes is going to get the $8.5 million according to AFP Analytics, they should give him deferred at least maybe a couple $100,000, so that it's like maybe $8 million or $7.8 million a season, or maybe 6.8. You saw an article that I put was about $6,500 for the next 3 to 4 years, and then 4 to 7 was like $8.5 million a year, because you're able to basically put some towards deferral and then eventually get paid out in interest on top of what initially would have got as an annual cap hit. So you're basically taking a little bit less and getting paid out a little bit more over time, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, like you said, it's basically interest. Like we see this all the time in real life, where it's like you can't, like your student loans, for example. Like if you can't afford them now, you defer the payment, so that way, you pay it a little later, but with interest. That's the money you owe them, and trust me, I'm dealing with that right now. But on a more serious note, so Luke Hughes is obviously the main target for the Devils in terms of just trying to lock him up to an extension. But here's the thing: Tom Fitzgerald said that the team is going to get a bit of a shakeup come next year. He just said it wasn't good enough, and he's right, because the bottom six only produced 3 points in the 5 playoff games.
Right.
That's not going to get it done.
No.
And Eric Holla, Stefan Nason, Paul Cotter, Curtis Lazar, formerly Tomas Tatar, Nathan Bastian, all great guys, but that's not really going to get you far in the playoffs, because I think the main issue for the Devils was their depth. So I think that should be a main priority for them. And I know a lot of people are searching for physicality, and I think someone who fits the mold when it comes to producing offense and also being physical would have to be Sam Bennett for the Panthers, because Bennett arguably is the Panthers' best player right now during the playoffs, and he's played an integral part on Paul Maurice's roster for the past few years. So I think a lot of people are aiming for Sam Bennett, but the problem is the Devils might not have the cap space to afford him. I mentioned Marco Rossi in the previous episode, saying like, yes, he's 5'9", but he doesn't play like he's 5'9".
No. I'm
And
5'8". I'm almost 5'9", just by a couple of fractions of an inch. So just because a guy's a bit undersized doesn't mean they have jerseytude or attitude.
right, so it's just like he doesn't play small. I'll tell you that much. So I think my thing for the Devils is that they need to focus more on depth scoring, because they were one of the Devils, believe it or not, were one of the more physical teams in the NHL. Not in terms of getting into fights, like they didn't rank in the top 10. However, here's something they did rank in the top 10: hits per game. And Paul Cotter broke the single season hits record for the Devils. He laid like 245 hits, which is a
Easily.
lot. But here's what Chico Resch told me. He said, like, when it comes to laying hits and not producing points, that could easily be replaced. So what the Devils need to do is focus on getting depth scoring, because they were shut out way too many times this year.
Yeah, that's correct. And I will say this: to death do I part. I will always say, you can always find edge anywhere in the NHL. You can find it through the draft. You can find it through free agency, waiver wire, anywhere. But you have to find points makers. Why do you think a few seasons ago I started two-way Sasquatch scoring? Why? You need hits. You need blocks. You need guys that create points. You need to have these guys that actually have 3 tools in their toolbox. And if you add that together, you can find at least 2 RFAs that I can list easily that fit the frickin' bill. One is Marco Rossi. He can hit, he can block, he scores points for a guy that is under 6 feet tall. The next guy that's an RFA that's been mentioned in rumors, I don't know if he's really going to go through with it, but I would love to, especially this other kid that I liked in his draft year, Mason McTavish, a Canadian-Swiss dual citizen, was really good, scored at least a minimum of 22 to 27 goals a season, and scored about, 57 points? Correct me if I'm wrong.
I'll look that up right now. But
he could still throw hits for a young man who's developing into a center or a winger. And
so Mason McTavish, in 76 games played, he had 22 goals, 30 assists for a grand total of 52 points. Why aren't more people talking about him? It's probably because he plays in Anaheim.
You know what happens, Trey? Anytime you're playing for a smaller market and a team that's not doing so well and they're looking to win the draft lottery, they don't get the NHL media blessing.
And the thing is, he was drafted 3rd overall back in 2021. That was the
pandemic shortened draft seasons.
that was the Luke Hughes year too, 2021.
Yep.
And the Devils selected Luke Hughes with the next pick. So,
Yep.
and I think a lot of people were surprised that McTavish went number 3, if I recall correctly. In fact, the Ducks have a recent history of drafting guys who went a little too higher up in their like projected draft board. So like I think another example would be Beckett Seneca. Before we continue with today's episode alongside Jersey Joe, let me tell you guys about FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. All right, we already know that OKC, they've secured their spot in the NBA Finals. We don't know what's going to happen between the Knicks and the Pacers. Pacers are currently up 3-2, but it's going to be very tough for either the Pacers or the Knicks to beat OKC. They look like a juggernaut. New to FanDuel, it's a perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook betting partner of the NBA. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. All right, let's get back to today's episode alongside Jersey Joe. Take it away once again.
Yeah, Beckett Seneca, I will say last year, when I was with Draft Pro, I said, I have him going 14, 16th. And my head of scouting, my GM, Dan Stewart, said, I have a source saying that he's going top 5. I said, you flipping kidding me. I said something a little different. I said, that's way beyond my expectation.
Because
I said he's not worthy of that.
I think Mike Morial, if my memory serves me well, I think Mike Morial, who covers, NHL prospects, he appeared on my show last year, and I think he had Beckett Seneca going number 10 to the Devils.
Yeah, I that's why I said last year I had him, I had Silayev, I had a couple other guys all aligned in my room of expectation, especially Tisha Ginla. But at that same time, I mean, the Ducks chose who they wanted all along. But Seneca really looked like another Seth Jarvis. That's who they projected to be like. But anyways, if the Devils are going for a player that's been drafted, been groomed a little bit very well, very big size, I wouldn't mind giving an offer sheet or overmatching Anaheim and giving up one of our own picks.
But the problem is, like, if the only thing that the Devils can offer when it comes to an offer sheet is a bridge deal, and teams like Anaheim can easily match that. Same with the Wild and the Marco Rossi situation. The Devils can only, at this very moment, give them a bridge deal, and the Wild are going to match that.
Or you would have to overpay in money.
That's an option, but is it worth it?
Right. Well, I think in the long term, Mason McTavish would be that kind of guy, because you want someone who's big, plays center, plays wing, has a history of goal scoring and being a playmaker, winning those big board battles. The size is right. His hitting and blocking on the points production is right. Question is, does Sheldon Keefe's system suit him best? That's the other thing. And then will he play better on the Brad Shaw, where it's a multi-layer system? I think he will.
All right, so here's some players you sent me that could be options. You got JJ Peterka from the Sabres. You got Mason McTavish. We just talked about him. You also have Elias Lindholm, Marco Rossi. So of all those players you sent, and you did your research, which I'm rather impressed,
Yeah.
Which one is the most realistic for Devils to get, and what would they have to do to free up some cap space, in your opinion? Because I talked about how the Devils, if it's in their best interest, they might have to move on from Hala. They might have to move on from Mercer. See if you could get Palat or Hamilton's contract off the boards. But I think you would have to turn to Palat because I think Hamilton stays.
Well, first off, you don't get rid of a defenseman like Hamilton just to get rid of Hamilton and his money. It would be a little bit too much for a buyout, in my honest assessment. You'd have to get rid of Palat, but you'd also have to trade Hala and Mercer together in a package deal in order to really make them work in a multi-player deal. It has to be for the right player for the receiving end. The thing is, JJ Peterka, he's a really phenomenal sniper and playmaker for the Buffalo Sabres. The Sabres are every year they inch close, then they fall back. It's like the how do I put this?
They haven't made the playoffs since I was in middle school. I'm in my mid-20s, if you're curious. And in fact, fun fact, Lindy Ruff was the head coach at the time.
Right. And I will say this: it's like Charlie Brown trying to kick the football and always missing. That's the Buffalo Sabres in a nutshell. I love Buffalo, but the thing is, they can never get it together. The thing is, JJ Peterka, when I follow him in his draft year for Germany, phenomenal player. He's going to be a superstar. The thing is, they really don't have the cap space. The Devils do, but they can move on from a few guys. Mercer would be a guy I'd be happy to trade because Mercer's already under.
He might be the easiest one to trade because he has no clauses attached to his contract whatsoever. So I think his seat is getting a little warm, and I think he's now going to get the Alexander Holtz treatment, which is no matter what the trade circumstance is, he's always going to hear his name in the discussion.
And another thing is, Mercer has been coached in the past by Lindy Ruff. So I see him performing better under Lindy Ruff than under Sheldon Keefe. He was just status quo under Sheldon Keefe. Nothing against Keefe. It's just that the player in Mercer is not living up to the contract that he was signed to under Tom Fitzgerald. So if he goes to a system he's more familiar with, he'll likely do better with other players on that new line. So I would say he's probably going to be a Buffalo Sabre at that point. New Jersey Devils could give Peterka at least $7 million for at least a couple seasons. The Devils are looking to win now-ish, meaning they could move on from maybe a couple early round picks in the upcoming 26, 27 drafts. They will be able to leverage that. May sound crazy, but you're already getting a guy that was drafted rather high and performing really well. So you're already getting someone who's NHL ready now that is on a team that's going downward.
And also for Eric Hala, his no trade clause now shifts to a modified no trade clause. Luckily, there are only 6 teams that he will not be traded to. I'm going to go out on a limb and say one of them would be the Hurricanes. I'm just making an educated guess. I don't think he wants to go back there.
No.
Obviously, I don't know what the 5 other teams are. So I think Hala would be in consideration. Andre Palat, it's just like he has a modified no trade clause and a no movement clause. So that makes things a little difficult. I think Fitzgerald can try to get his contract off the board, but it's going to be difficult.
Like I said, he's going to be likely the first guy that gets bought out. So
I heard that buying his contract out is not the worst idea in the world. It's not best case scenario, but it's not worst case scenario.
It's moderate scenario. So, I mean, the thing is, I love how he plays defensively, and he was a really good playoff guy, and he's been a good player in the locker room and on the bench. But other than that, he's not the same Palat you signed for when the belated Johnny Gaudreau signed with the Columbus Blue Jackets. Rest in peace, Johnny. We miss you.
And thoughts and hearts still go out to his wife and the rest of his family during their time of healing. And also a New Jersey legend.
Exactly.
He didn't play for the Devils, but he epitomized Jersey hockey because he played high school there. But digressing a little bit, I think Palat, he needs to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like when you grow up, you're looking at that high school hockey team, like who's going to make the cut, who are you going to move on from? The cut and dump it's going to start with Palat, and then you're going to eventually trade Mercer, and Mercer's going to be the trade tree that keeps on giving, and somehow ends up bringing more fruitfulness to the New Jersey Devils. I think he ends up being the one that you don't have to offer sheet for Peterka, but the Devils end up getting Peterka extended without having to worry about an offer sheet, and then maybe they go for potentially, let's say, Mason McTavish. Just throwing silly season out there.
Yep.
I mean, you move on from what? Mercer's $4 million. You're basically paying Palat's pro rate, which is like what, 800,000 a season or something. You're buying out. I don't know exactly, but that's why I give you Puckpedia, because I don't know exact numbers off the top of my head, because I let you look at that online.
Give me a second. So if he were to be bought out right now, the actual cap hit would be $3.5 million.
Saving $3.5 million.
And saving would be $2.4 million. And then the next year, it would be $3.4 million.
All right. So I knew some of that money was carrying forward.
Like I said, not worst case scenario, but not best case scenario either, because people like Andre Palat don't get bought out.
It's rare, but you know what? When Father Time's not on your side, that's the worst asset. Becomes a liability. Term can be a problem for some teams.
Yeah, and the thing about Andre Palat is, like, if he wasn't being paid that amount of money, he'd actually be a pretty solid player on the roster. But the issue is he just eats up a good chunk of it.
Right, and it may be cheaper than Dougie Hamilton's $9 million, but it's still a lot of cap hit percentage. So when you move that percentage off the books for a good extent, you're saving yourself some extra cap room. Like you could still go out and get like an Elias Lindholm. If I remember, he's a UFA. Devils need a center. If the Devils don't get McTavish, you have a good fallback plan. I mean, because of certain players no longer here, and then moving on from Bastion, you basically can fill the fourth center from within the organization with maybe Beckman or. Got to think of it. A lot can happen in the next couple of months.
Yep, and depending on how long the Stanley Cup Finals last, the draft won't be too far away. It'll be in late June. And things are going to move quickly, because I think we saw it last year when the Stanley Cup Final went to 7 games. Then the draft happened a few days later. Then next thing you know, development camp happens, free agency happens, and everything just started moving really fast. So it's going to get hectic.
Right. And at this time around, teams get to pick from their own boardrooms pretty much. They don't really have to travel anymore.
Right.
Because it's all decentralized.
Yeah, because this draft is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be held in Los Angeles, but don't expect to see Tom Fitzgerald there.
No. It's going to look like NFL draft. It's going to just go rapid fire.
Yeah, where only like the top prospects will be invited.
Right. It's going to be like New World situation. Like I don't hate it, but like I'm still a traditionalist at the end of the day, because I'm so used to seeing the pomp and circumstance. So anyways, we talk about this team like needs more scoring touch because they already got the Sasquatch part of it going.
Yeah, and I said in the previous episode that it's not going. One person is not going to be the saving grace for the Devils. They still have a lot of work to do. So it's like goaltending was supposed to be the answer. The Devils got Jacob Markstrom, and Jake Allen was the backup. Great tandem, very underrated if you ask me. But
Yep.
they still were first round exits, albeit they were dealing with injury. But it's just like even when the Devils were healthy, they were still inconsistent, or they wanted more physicality. All right, they bring in Nason, they bring in Dylan, they bring in Cotter. But when those guys go on cold streaks, it's noticeable.
Right.
I think Nason's the more dynamic player because he could do so much. But again, it's not just one simple fix. It's a collective team effort. So if the Devils just get Luke and do nothing else, it's a failure. Or if they
Right.
just buy out Palat's contract just to re-sign Jake Allen, I'm just like, no, you still got you're not really fixing anything.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, you signed Jake Allen for a year, or you had him for a year,
A season and a half.
season and a half. So you basically told Nico Daz, okay, you can come up, play for X amount of games. Let's see how you do. Let's see your progress. Now you're pretty much ready. He's now ready to get off of the probationary driver's license, get his full license to be a goalie at the NHL level with the New Jersey Devils. That's the way I look at it with Nico Daz. And then you move up Isaac Poulter to get maybe 1 or 2 seasons in the AHL contract. Make sure it's two-way. And then you make sure within those 2 years, our boy, Mike Yegorov, is ready to move on from Boston University in the proper cookie sheet manner. So anyone who wants to know is that anytime I talk to Trey about this is an analogy I use. You want to make sure you have the right ingredients to cream the dough and basically add your chips or whatever you want. You put in the oven for a set amount of time and heat, and you make sure you don't burn anything or undercook. Prospects are like that. Handling any sort of contracts work like that. You don't want things to become stale or raw. You want to make sure it's perfect coming out of the oven.
Absolutely. And I think the Devils, this offseason is going to be interesting. I know you threw out a lot of players, but if the Devils want some high-end talent, they're going to have to give a little. So you need to give a little to get a little. So,
and I will say this, Sam Bennett won't be solving every single problem. The thing is, when you overpay a guy.
Wait. Do you think Sam Bennett is going to get like the Andre Palat treatment where it's just like he's really good, but, maybe it's
Father Time declines him.
Yeah, Father Time declines him. He's obviously a great playoff performer, but you know who else was a great playoff performer?
Andre Palat.
He was called Playoff P for a reason.
Yeah. That's like I said before. I love Sam Bennett. Don't get me wrong. The guy is clutch. The thing is, you can be clutch for oh so long in hockey before nature catches up to you or Father Time. And it just, everything is the last and final swan song in your career. And you do win a gold or whatever trophy for the Four Nations, being a clutch player in that too. So Sam Bennett has a lot to hang his hat on, but I don't think he would take a deferred payment to play with the Devils. Plus, I think with the Florida state income tax being 0, plus he was also...
Here's the debate.
And also, he was also mentioned to be interested also playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs, especially for Craig Berube. But the thing is, I see him staying with Florida. That's where I'm keeping my mindset at. I doubt he comes to New Jersey. I just don't think, even for the right money, he would ask for a little too much term. And you look at another Palat situation.
Well, I don't think he's coming to New Jersey either way. But Jersey Joe, we've pretty much talked about everything in terms of how the Devils clear house a little bit, potential options, what they need to fix.
Well, with that being said, I mean, with the Stanley Cup final roaring in rather quickly, I would like to see Edmonton win for once. I mean, I know it sounds far-fetched. I'd like to see a different champion this time around, especially
But
for Henrique.
I get it. Hey, there are a lot of former Devils players on the Panthers. You got Vanacek, Nosek, Greer, Boquist, and Kulikov. But I think the Panthers are just collectively a better team than the Oilers. I think they got more going for them in terms of their forwards, their defense, their goaltending, their coaching. I know Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, two of the best players in the league right now. But coming from a LeBron James fan, teams will always beat individuals.
Right. And the thing is, the Panthers are very likely going to hoist the cup again. That's why I said I would like to see Edmonton win, but I doubt the fact because there's so much of a collective or a cooperative with the Florida Panthers, and it feels weird having seen AJ Greer play for the Devils after coming over from the Bruins or Islanders years ago, and then seeing Jesper Boquist when he was a prospect. I did not want to see him gone. I wanted to see him stay in New Jersey because I saw him as not just a penalty killer. I saw him as a guy that could really benefit the power play a little bit better and be really good on breakaways.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. I think Boquist was really good. Vanacek, he's pretty much a non-factor for the Hurricane. I mean, for the Panthers, just because just because you got Sergei Bobrovsky there. So Vanacek's gonna get his name on the trophy if they win, but he didn't really do much.
No, I mean he's just there sitting in the passenger seat just in case he needs to get away from playing shotgun and get ready to play in the actual driver's seat. But that being said, I mean the Devils already have a blueprint of what they need to do. It's a matter of executing. Like you saw me text you. You see the difference between the Panthers and the Hurricanes when it comes to hits, blocks, and points column.
Right.
Called the Sasquatch two-way play. Now, anyone thinks I'm freaking nuts. That's because I am nuts in a smart way. It's called seeing the eye test and using analytics to your advantage.
I hate advanced analytics, though.
But that's the only advanced analytics you need.
We'll wait and see. I got the Panthers winning it again. I got them repeating.
Me too.
I don't know why anyone would be rooting for the Hurricanes to beat the Panthers. I said anybody but Hurricanes, but now we get a rematch from last year. We get the Oilers and the Panthers. But Jersey Joe, closing thoughts. Anything you'd like to say?
I would like to tell people I believe the Devils are going to be a little bit more aggressive this offseason, especially this might be Tom Fitzgerald's butt on the hot seat. I mean, this is going to be a career offseason for him. If not, I see Dan McKinnon taking his place.
We'll see what happens, but for the time being, you can check out Jersey Joe on Pucks and Pitchforks. Also follow him on X at JerseyJoe11_New Jersey. And special thanks to Joe for taking time out of his day to talk all things Devils. And like I do to close out every episode, continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day, New Jersey. Go Devils. I'll catch you guys next episode. Thanks for listening. Once again, let's see what the offseason has in store.
Let's be silly.
Silly season, my favorite time of the year.
There we go. Let's go Devils.